Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is November 16th, 2022, and this has been and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is your co-host, Ben Dickerson. Boy, week 10 was kind of rough. It was rough on my picks. I kind of regressed back to 8-6, but we had some of the most exciting football we've seen all season. A couple of really super exciting games. So I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Yes, games that nobody thought was supposed to be exciting, games that were supposed to be routine. That was the game that I found intriguing. Plus, I had already been missed most of the day, so I had to do the last game of the weekend, which was the Monday game. Anywho,
Wait, you mean you picked it by default?
I picked it by default.
Oh,
But I'm telling the truth. Did you read the article?
yes, I did. Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
Great job. You said it very well. And it matched the outcome perfectly. It's like if something was going to happen, and boom.
What's more intriguing than watching somebody pursue an undefeated streak? You know what I mean?
Sure.
When will it end? How will it end? Oh, too funny, too funny. We'll talk about that. Let's jump into what
Drinks
you got?
up.
What you got?
Drinks up for the Miami Dolphins, the 72 Miami Dolphins, all the guys that are still alive. I'm sure they had a party.
Drinks up to the 72
Yep.
Miami Dolphins. And again, that's hot. To my stepdad, Lawrencey, who bet me $25 that they wasn't going to go undefeated. You still owes me that $25. 1972.
From 1972. Oh, jeez.
Let me say, with interest, the compounded, no clue,
I think it's safe to say you'll never see that money, bro.
Pretty safe. Yes. I can feel assured in that.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's see who did what. Let's see who's ranked where. You know, Ben, before we do my Sterling Net Point Power ranking, I did take a quick look at the NFL ranking.
Okay.
And now you have two 8-1 teams, the Vikings and the Eagles. And the Vikings were ranked in first place. So I'm like, okay, they have the same win percentage. I'm going across the columns. I'm like, okay, what got them to first and the Eagles, to drop to second? And it looks as if it was wins within the division or something like that. I think the Eagles might have dropped the game. Well, yeah, that game was in the division.
Right.
And I guess the Vikings are ruling the division. They don't have a loss. So that small difference put them over top relative.
Yeah, I believe division wins is one of the tiebreakers.
So yeah, but it went out down to that level for a tiebreaker at 8-1 on that. So let's take a look at the Sterling Net Point Power rankings, and we're going to start at the bottom, from 21 to 32. Let's see here. 21, that scary team from New Orleans, the Saints. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, ANP, average net points, APF, average points for, APA, average points against, and ATOD, average turnover differential. What we consider the crucial statistics. Average net points, that difference between points for and points against, is one of those stats that can be positive and negative. That is also true for average turnover differential. And you'll see from 21 to 32, in both cases, we're dealing in negative numbers. From New Orleans down to Pittsburgh, which is an absolute last place in net points at minus 7.4, you'll see that range from minus 2.5 through that. The Chargers are there, and Green Bay at minus 3.1. So we always talk about the neighborhood, the teams you're hanging out with. The Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, are ranked 30th at minus 5.8 net points. So that means they're losing by an average of almost 6 points. In terms of scoring, Jacksonville is coming in 21st place. They're putting up 21 points per game. It drops from there down to Denver. Denver, Benny, in absolute last place in offense in terms of points scored at 14.6 points per game, just below Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. The Rams again, all right, down on the floor. Houston, Tampa Bay, 18.3. Tennessee, 18.4. It's one of the things that scares you about Tennessee, but Tennessee, I think we really got to pull out some time of possession stats on Tennessee, Benny,
Right.
because they might be getting away with 18.4 points per game.
And pulling out wins with it.
We have to take a look at that. Green Bay found a run game, and they're putting up 18.5 points per game. Washington found a run game, 19.1 points per game. Carolina, did they find a run game? Actually, I think they did.
They did. They did this past weekend.
Without Christian McCaffrey, they still found a run game. The Giants, with the gift, Saquon. And did you send me the thing about this new name that they got for Danny Dimes?
No, what?
I don't know. It's some kind of primetime Lamar Jackson.
Oh, come on.
All of a sudden.
No, I would never do that. That's corny.
No, Benny, average points against Detroit, absolute last place, okay? And all I can think of is the coach talking about biting kneecaps. How your defense in last place if you believe in biting kneecaps? It's just something missing there for me. But that ranges between Houston, you have Miami, Seattle, Carolina, New Orleans, Chicago, Atlanta, Las Vegas Raiders, the LA Chargers, Arizona in 30th, Cleveland in 31st, and Detroit in last place. So that's between 23 points per game that Houston's giving up down to 29.3 points that Detroit's giving up. So that's your range there. And that's all the people in that neighborhood, And then turnover differentials, pretty much a tie. Washington, Miami, Pittsburgh, and Detroit at minus 0.2. Carolina, San Fran, minus 0.3. Kansas City, Green Bay, Cleveland, the Rams. Rams is just at the bottom of all the categories. Indianapolis, minus 0.9. And New Orleans, the Scary Saints, in absolute last place in turnover differential at minus 1.2, Benny. Lots of interesting teams here. Teams who won, this past weekend.
All I got to say is, in average points against, Detroit has basically been in last place from the beginning. But the first few weeks of the season, they were sitting at like 32 to 34 points given up per game. And now they're at 29.3. So they actually improved. I like to give credit where credit is due.
Well, it's man, I'm telling you, they are minus 5 net points. So yeah, like you said, they're giving up 29.3 and they're only scoring what 24 on average. I don't see them in the bottom group there though,
Well, in points for?
Huh?
No, not in points for. No, points for, they're still putting points on the board.
Let's see if they're in the next group. You want to move on?
Sure.
We're talking about 11 through 20 now, Benny, that middle group. All right, here we go. 11 through 20. Seattle, your New York Giants tied at plus 1.6 points per game. Let's call it living on the edge. Winning by an average of 1.6 points per game over what, 10 weeks now?
Over 10 weeks.
Sheesh. But even more so on the edge, Jacksonville and Miami. Now Miami was without Tua for a minute.
Right. They're on the come up.
And now Tua's back.
Jacksonville is falling. In fact, this is the first week Jacksonville fell out of the top 10.
Okay. Yeah.
Which we both predicted.
Yeah, they were living on that first big win. So the skew worked its way out in the averages, and now they're going to have to win in order to stay. But you got Tampa Bay, who did, Tennessee, Atlanta, Denver. Now, at 16 with Tennessee, we move from positive, like Tampa Bay is positive 0.3, Tennessee is negative 0.2. So we make a move there. And now you have negatives down with Tennessee, Atlanta, Denver. How is Denver even 18? It's that defense. Washington at minus 2.2 and Cleveland at minus 2.3. So, it's interesting with Washington. I know you're gonna talk about the Eagle Washington game when you go over.
Yes.
Okay, well, I won't dig too deep into that. At 11, in terms of scoring, we have Dallas at 23.4. Lots of talk about Dak. Dak's got a Cooper Rush problem. Cooper Rush did too good, and now Dak's being compared to Cooper Rush. Atlanta, but that's 23.4 points per game. They're scoring. Atlanta right behind them, 23.2, and Arizona 23. Vegas, New England, the Chargers, New Orleans, down to my Niners, all at about 22 points per game, give or take a fraction. The Jets and Chicago finish out 19th and 20th at 21.8 and 21.7 points per game. So between 23 and 21 points, this group is right in that group. I like the 28 points team that can hit up in that number to go deep into the playoffs. But, I see my Niners down there at 22. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, at some point. But the weather's changing. The tide is turning. The attacks are going from the air to the ground. The ground attack is now entered the field of consciousness in the NFL. I'm predicting it will continue, and I'm looking forward to it. All right. Points against APA, Indianapolis at 20.3. You got that 20 group with Jacksonville and Cincinnati. The 21 group with Minnesota, Washington, Green Bay, Baltimore at 21.2 up to about 8. Rams are giving up 22.2 points per game. They're in 18th place. Kansas City. There's Kansas City, 22.9 points per game. And you haven't seen them yet in the net point rankings from 11 to 32. Pittsburgh's coming in at 20th at 23 points per game. That's your middle there. In terms of that, we'll talk about turnover differential quickly because the Jets, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay are 0.1 on the positive side from 11 through 13, and Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, New England, and Denver all at 0. They're all breaking even from 14 down to 18, and then you have your negative 0.1 tie between Vegas and Buffalo. Now that could have been the game. It was intriguing. I just didn't have time to do that game. Anywho, 11 to 20, Benny. What do you think?
Well, like I said, I usually try to concentrate on the first column there, average net points. And Seattle and the Giants are hanging in there just outside the top 10 and have been winning fairly consistently, be it a surprise to some people or not. Jacksonville just dropped out of the top 10, which we expected them to, and they may drop a little further. Miami, like you said, was without Tua for a couple of weeks. They're on the come up. And as predicted by me, amongst some other people, Tom Brady seems to be getting his act together and dragging the whole Tampa Bay Buccaneers team along with him. So they're on the come up too. Everybody else is kind of questionable, but I think top 15 gives you an opportunity to grab a seed. 14 teams make the playoffs. So everybody that's now in our current top 15 has a real good shot.
Okay. 14 teams make the playoffs. All right, then. Well, then this group should pretty much all be there, Benny. We're talking about 1 through 10 here. And the top 2 teams here, Buffalo and Philadelphia, both lost, and it was dramatic. Kansas City won, but Buffalo is still in the first place at plus 11. Philly in second at plus 8.8. Kansas City at plus 7.1. Which tells you something, ladies and gentlemen. Don't peek over to that next column because you'll see our secret about Kansas City. Dallas 5.2. So Dallas, despite everything, are net 5.2. They're in 4th place in net points. Ahead of Cincinnati at 4.8. Baltimore plus 4.3. Again, all plus numbers. New England plus 4.1. Not like fundamentals, right, Benny? Keep you competitive, 3.9 for my Niners. Minnesota 3.9. That's kind of a surprise tie right there. Us in Minnesota. Again, in the official NFL rankings, based on a tie record of 8-1, they had Minnesota ahead of the Eagles, with the tiebreaker being the division record. And then you have 10th place, the Jets. Surprising Jets. We don't know to be scared of these Jets or not. We don't know what to do with these guys. But that's your top 10 in net points from plus 11 down to plus 2.2, Benny. I'll leave it right there for you for a minute.
Well, I know what to do with the Jets. If you play fantasy, get that Jets defense. If you let your eyes stray over to the right a little bit and see average points against, you'll see the Jets sitting at number 10. If anything is surprising, that's surprising. They basically went from no defense to speak of last season to a top defense. They had a great draft. They picked up probably the defensive rookie of the year in Sauce Gardner playing corner, and they haven't looked back, man. I know they're making the head coach proud because he's the next defensive coordinator, so that's his thing, and they're playing extremely well. Another small surprise. Well, I'm not going to downplay it like I knew something, okay? My Giants are just ahead of the Jets defensively. That is a surprise. That is a surprise. I'm not going to say shocked because I knew the pass rush would be better and I knew they'd be pretty good against the run, but I wasn't real happy about losing Bradbury out of the secondary. And then they just had the other safety broke his hand or something in an accident. But there they sit at number 9 overall in average points against. So I think
hold on now. Let me do the quick
I'm going
rundown.
too far because we haven't talked about those yet, right?
Yeah, that's okay. But I'm gonna do the quick rundown on them because you already hit it, But let's just look across the top there.
Sure.
Average points for number 1 place, Kansas City Chiefs, 1st place. And again, this is an offense that had questions because Tyreek Hill left, and he was such a weapon. What happens if you lose this weapon? Very interesting. Denver in 1st place on defense, giving up only 16.6 points per game. Let me back this thing up one more time, Benny. Actually, I want to back this up 2 more times because that was 16.6 points per game, and they're scoring 14.
Right.
So they are literally in 1st place and last place at the same time. first place defensively. Buffalo's coming in at 16.8, Tampa Bay 18. Now you got a range of 18s here with San Fran, Dallas, New England, Philly, Tennessee, all at 18 point something. The Giants come in at 19.2 and the Jets at 19.6. Your turnover differential are all positive. The Chargers are at the 10th place. Going up, you've got Cincinnati, Tennessee, Seattle. Your Giants are what, 7th place or 6th place? Arizona, Dallas, we're all doing about a percentage of 1 on the positive side, up to Minnesota, which is 0.9 in second place. And in first place still, Philadelphia Eagles at plus 1.4 average turnover differential. So they're still in the plus side, even though they struggle with turnovers in that last game, Benny. But here you go, 1 through 10.
I can't complain about anything here. After a game like the Eagles had this past weekend, it just goes to show that on any given Sunday, crazy things can happen. A team that was far and away ahead of everybody in average turnover differential ends up giving the ball away like 4 times. Very uncharacteristic, but you never know, man. You never know. Everybody's a professional. Everybody gets paid. You know what I mean? Some teams are obviously better than others, but then strange things happen.
Well, I tell you, this Kansas City is very intriguing because they seem to be in control. They seem to have, they with the tools that they have, and then I think they just lost somebody though. One of the receivers got hurt, I think, for Kansas City. But I think
it might have been Juju.
Oh, Juju did get, man, he did the tour, didn't he? He did the tour, man. He got.
I mean, the thing is that they're so dynamic offensively that it makes up for some of their defensive shortcomings.
Oh yeah, if you're averaging 30 points a game,
right,
you can afford for your defense to average. What was that? What were they giving up?
Oh, they're way down.
Yeah, it's 22. So they're scoring 30. Defense is giving up just under 23.
Yeah, but they're doing it every kind of way. They've had slugfests with people. They've fallen behind and come back. And they've been front runners, jumped on teams and just ran away with games. So they've done it all 3 different ways you can do it. That's a testament to how good their offense is.
That's interesting. Wow. They've done it all types of games, eh?
Right.
Holy mackerel. Everyone's like going crazy about Josh Allen, the INTs, some of the seemingly bad decision making. He is dynamic though. There's no doubt about that. If he doesn't fumble that snap at the goal line and he gets the 1 inch that he needs, which is really, when they say game of inches, man, I mean, that's the epitome of that situation right there. Then the whole narrative flips, and everybody points out the mistakes or the interceptions that Cousins threw and everything like that. But we see it. I mean, we see it because, we in the next segment when we do the Bias Plus reports and we look at the matchups, we kind of have an idea about, the strengths against the weaknesses and stuff there, in terms of their defense versus their offense, the other offense and things of that nature. So that's one of the values of just kind of having an idea about this chart, ladies and gentlemen. Just take a look at it, and there's no guarantee, when they say, Benny, past performance is no guarantee of future results.
Correct.
But trends do happen. And some of the teams that are, Kansas City, for the most part, is probably not going to fall off a cliff scoring wise.
No.
So that's who they are. And so that's what you kind of finding out who these people are. These are averages. So some of the numbers are a little more modest. But over a 10-game season, if your average net points like Buffalo is 11, then your gross net points ahead of everybody else will be 110. The next team down would be 88, that type of thing. So these numbers would look a little bit bigger, but I think they're just as important here. Your Giants, again, high in the turnover differential. Minnesota's pretty high in the turnover differential. That takes us from 1 through 10. You want to wrap this piece up?
Just to say, I don't talk a whole lot about my team, but I'm going to take a minute right now. Obviously, if you watch them for the last couple of seasons, and particularly last season, it should be fresh in any Giants fan's mind. Turnovers and defense was a weakness. A lot of people are saying Daniel Jones isn't going to make it because he doesn't protect the ball. He runs when he shouldn't. As soon as he gets hit, he fumbles. He throws interceptions. He's not good in the red zone. They've changed all that. To be this high in turnover differential, I think is amazing. And I have to credit the new coach. I think he's doing a wonderful job with them. He's got these guys really believing in themselves. And he's got Daniel Jones under control, where he's not necessarily a game manager, but I think he's a little bit better than your normal game manager. They're asking just enough of him that he's able to come through and be a little bit more than a game manager. Of course, it helps when Saquon's having a great season. Again, I predicted that after his injury. He came back last season, and I said he may not be that good this first year off the injury, but the second year off the injury is when he's going to come through. And sure enough, he's coming through. So real proud for my Giants right now. Everybody else is pretty much where they should be. Got to be proud of the Jets too. I mean, I like the coach. I liked him when he was defensive coordinator for you guys. And he's doing a really great job in a tough city to handle a franchise.
So you like Danny Dimes, the option quarterback?
Well, that's what he is. That's what he is. That's basically the offense that they're running. They're successful with it. He makes good decisions when to hand it off and when to keep it. And as long as he keeps doing that, that offense is going to keep humming.
They're fun to watch. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. That wraps up the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings portion of the show. Let's get ready to rumble. With the Bias Plus reports, man, Benny, let me tell you something. It gets better and better and better and better. Let's look at the first one. Now, do you recognize the graphic in the background?
Yes.
You want to tell the people what
I
that
remember
represents?
that. So right in the, wait a minute, let me get this on my screen right. Right in the middle between where it says NFL Week 11, 2022, and where it says Titans at Packers, you see tiny little scribble of red and white lines. That's the amount of scrambling that Tom Brady did in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, correct?
Correct.
And up above, over top of where it says the Pro Football Bias Plus reports, those gigantic scribbly lines, That's the distance that Patrick Mahomes traveled in that same Super Bowl.
Same game.
Crazy. So who we got here first? Titans at Packers. Titans get the bias plus.
Thursday night, right?
Yes, sir.
Titans at Packers bias plus score 5.8 favors the Titans.
I'm just hoping it's not a terrible game. These Thursday night games have been kind of wacky. But this might actually be a good one.
The
Mhm.
Packers, the question is, do they value their run game? Right now, again, this is the time of year. If you value your run game, and if you have one, man, it's going to make everything work better. The Titans, they got a run game.
And they value it.
They value it.
But here's the funny thing.
If you like running game, and my niece said, what did she say the other day? She said, what game was really, seemed like the game was short. I was like, well, if they're running the ball, the game will shorten up.
Yeah, it'll seem that way. The less the ball's in the air, the less times the clock stops.
That's right. That's right. Clock stops on incompletion, things of that nature. You're running the ball, clock just keeps on rolling.
Right.
Rolling. But you got the Titans and they're in Green Bay. It doesn't make a difference because what the Titans do travels. A run game travels. You don't care where you're at.
That is true. So last week, Ryan Tannehill came back after 2-game absence with a bad ankle. And even though he started the game, he still wasn't 100%. The Titans defense was also missing players. In fact, they were missing like 5 starters, but they were still able to take care of the piss poor Denver Broncos. Broncos are really in bad shape, folks. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about them. Now, their defense was successful. As we just looked at the rankings, they're number 1 in average points against. So they were successful loading up the box to stop Derrick Henry. But the secondary pretty much stinks. Tannehill, even though he was gimpy, didn't commit any turnovers, and he was able to toss 2 touchdown passes. Both of them went to wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the shorthanded defense intercepted Russell Wilson once and sacked him 6 times. So that was a good win for the Titans. Now, as for the Packers, a bunch of folks were ready to dump dirt on them, and especially dump dirt on Aaron Rodgers after his 3-interception loss to Detroit in Week 9. With the big-time Dallas defense coming to Lambeau Field last week, things didn't look very promising, but the Packers coaching staff realized their only hope was to do what you and me keep on saying over and over again: do what you do best, which is run the ball. Aaron Jones slashed his way for 138 yards on 24 carries, and they got another 65 yards on the ground from A.J. Dillon. Nice 1-2 punch. And A-Rob was very efficient, 14 of 20, 224 yards, threw 3 touchdown passes. And here's the crazy thing. All 3 touchdown passes went to rookie wide receiver Christian Watson, the guy who dropped the very first pass of the game early in the season, and people were cursing him like crazy. He caught all 3 touchdown passes, got his first, his second, and his third all in this game, got to Lambeau Leap and everything. Hopefully that turns him around. And by the way, in fantasy, he's the number 1 pickup this week. People are scrambling to get this guy because they think the seal's broken. He's good now.
Do you remember what I said when we talked about the Packers? And I said the only thing the Packers need to do to turn it around for the receivers to actually catch the ball.
Right. When a guy who's been plagued by drops and kind of vilified by his quarterback early on, to come back and have a game like that, that's a big plus for the Packers. That being said, this is still a tough game to pick.
Let me mention real quick, though, on that receiver, when he was dropping those passes,
yes,
it was really magnified because he'd be open.
Let me tell you something. The kid's a pretty decent route running. He's got real speed.
He's got real speed.
He's got real speed.
He's blowing by people. He's dropping it.
Yes.
You and I have seen, like, we went through the whole phenomenon of the track guy who came to play football, but he really couldn't catch real good.
Right.
You know what I mean? We, not all track guys, but there was some. Okay. So long story short, yeah, he had speed. He was getting behind it. He just was dropping it, and then he caught him.
Yeah.
He keep that up. He's gonna have some. He's a rookie, right?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Packers at Titans. Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is still a tough game to pick, like I was going to say. Obviously, the Titans are going to give you a whole big dose of Derrick Henry, and the Packers' run defense hasn't been playing very well. They were pretty good against the Cowboys. They didn't necessarily stop Tony Pollard, but they kind of kept him under control. And it didn't help that Dak had a bad game. Packers at home at Lambeau. I think if they commit to stopping Derrick Henry, they'll be able to do it. And if they're able to do that and leave it up to Tannehill to try to beat him, they should come out on top. If Dak couldn't beat him, I don't think Tannehill will beat him either. I'm going to take the Packers.
Going against the bias, going with the Packers. Titans got a 5.8 bias plus score. Benny going against them. Okay, all right. Well, that's your Thursday night game. That's an interesting game to me. That could be an intriguing game. Again, I want to see, who comes in and dominates the run game there.
Well, whose run defense shows up?
Well, there you go. That's the other way you look at it.
That's going to be, yeah.
It shows up. All right, Panthers at Ravens. Bias plus score of 12.6. Nice, healthy bias plus score favoring the Ravens over the Panthers. Can you count anybody out? And are they going to bring Baker in?
I don't know. Are they talking about it?
I don't know. He was head bumping guys with no helmet on last game.
Oh, my God, this guy. I mean, I can't say PJ locked the job up. I thought he did after one game a couple weeks ago, but he's been pretty lackluster since then. I don't know. All I know is that there's a lot of things in professional football or football in general that are very hard to explain. Carolina's defense.
Really, Benny? Tell me.
And at this point, I'm not even really talking about Baker Mayfield. Carolina's defense, when they played the Cincinnati Bengals, they gave up 153 yards and 4 touchdowns to Joe Mixon alone. They gave up a total of 241 yards on the ground. This was back in week 9.
Joe Mixon might get in the Hall of Fame off them numbers.
Hey, I thought the Falcons, whose strength is the running game, would come in and gash their defense again, but I was wrong. The defense actually stood up strong, held the Falcons to 138 total rushing yards, and stopped them on downs on their last chance at a game-winning drive. Shut them down. Stopped Mariota. Got the game won. Now, they got to go to Baltimore, though, and the Ravens are coming off the bye, and they're getting several players back that were previously injured, including superstar tight end Mark Andrews. I think all the running backs are now healthy. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kenyon Drake, everybody's healthy. I don't know what kind of rotation they're going to use with those guys, but it doesn't really matter if they can't stop Lamar. It's going to be a problem.
Lamar.
Yeah, because of the offense that the Ravens run, and because they have so many different options, and they have the ultimate option in Lamar, it's very difficult to load the box on them. So I'm going to say that the Panthers don't really have too much of a chance to win this game, and I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Going with the bias.
Yes.
Going with the Ravens. I mean, this will be an upset. This, that's what makes an upset. That's one of the things I like about this. You see this and you say, those two teams, was that an upset? Yeah. And when you're favored by those numbers, You know what I mean? That would be an upset. Okay, how do we get to the Titans and Packers again? Okay, 5.8 favorites, the Titans. We were at the Ravens. We backed that up. 12.6 favored the Ravens. Ben's going with the Ravens. Check,
Right.
check. Bears at Falcons. Bias plus score of 1.2 favors the Falcons. Justin Fields threw the dagger killer interception. You know, so it's, I'm gonna tell you something. It's the accuracy is more difficult when you're on the move. Okay, it's what separates but Mahomes from everybody else. It's just when you're moving and when you're running, guy. He's more of a movement guy than a running guy. I'm talking about Mahomes, but Justin Fields, his game is looking better. His running is amazing. He just threw it to the wrong guy when in crunch time.
Yeah, he did do that, but before doing that, he treated us to another awesome effort. Unfortunately, the Bears lost to Detroit last week, but this was one of the more exciting games of the day. He basically single-handedly spotted the Bears a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter before the depleted defense, having traded away all their star players on defense for draft picks. Now, all of a sudden, their defense has gone from really good to pretty bad, and they allowed the Lions to come back. But the interception did finish them off. But Fields did throw for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 147 yards and another 2 scores. So he was pretty much a one-man show. Now they got to go to Atlanta, so they get to play indoors and get away from Chicago bad weather for a little while. But Atlanta's vaunted run game didn't show up in Carolina last week. I'm not exactly sure what's wrong. Cordarrelle Patterson is back, but they've been having him return kicks and haven't had him in the backfield very much. I haven't figured that out yet, why that's going on. But even though Marcus Mariota threw 2 touchdown passes, the team just couldn't do much else after that. So I'm really not liking the Falcons right now. I think the Bears come in there, get a full dose of Justin Fields and that revamped offensive game plan, and the Bears pull out a win on the road. Yeah, going against the bias again.
Going against the bias. Benny, I didn't get a chance to calculate last week's totals, but I knew I was 4 down at least on certain games. And you knew you were down. I knew the bias was going to be wrong on the Eagles game because the bias was saying that they should win that game, based on everything that they've done. So those numbers, they are what they are. And it's all based on what you've actually done.
Absolutely.
You're going with the Bears in this particular case. A bias plus score of 1.2 is razor thin. That could go either way. That makes it a fun situation. Browns at Bills. Bias plus score 15.3. Speaking of a healthy bias, favors the Bills. Now, the Bills will have to stop the run game for show in this situation. And what's the quarterback? Brissett?
Yes.
He got about 2 more games to showcase his talent, don't he?
Yes, he does. And that was the plan all along for the Browns, was play solid defense, run the ball like crazy, and make it easy for Jacoby Brissett to game manage the team until week 13 when Deshaun Watson was eligible to play. Now, if the Browns were 6-3, they'd probably be in first place or tied for first place in their division, the AFC North, and they'd be ready to have Watson come back in 2 weeks to lead them into the playoffs. Instead, they're 3-6, and they're on the brink of being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. I know there's still some games left to play, but it ain't looking real good for a really talented team that can't seem to find wins. Last week's blowout loss to the Dolphins was really, really ugly. I don't know what these guys have left in them, to tell you the truth. Now, let's talk about the Bills real quick. And I'm not going to belabor this. I was upset about that loss. I thought they would win that game. I was impressed with what Minnesota did, but I don't know. I'm not going to make any excuses for my second team or my AFC team. Let's not forget, Josh Allen is a gunslinger. It's part of the reason he's considered a great player, and it's part of what caused him to commit 2 critical turnovers in a home loss to the Vikings last week. Both his interceptions were in the red zone at the tail end of important drives and helped set the Vikings up to come back from 17 points down and win in overtime. One was near the end of the game. One was in overtime. Both went to Patrick Peterson, a veteran corner who's been playing pretty well lately, to tell you the truth. I kind of thought this guy was out of gas his last couple of years with the Cardinals. But since he's been with the Vikings, he's kind of picked up his game. He's not a young guy, but we'll talk about him later. That being said, I don't think the Browns are going to put up much resistance. They're not going to be able to do what the Vikings did. They got to go to Buffalo. It's going to be cold. The run game does travel, but I don't think they'll have much else to keep up with the Bills. So I'm taking the Bills.
Did you say it's going to be cold?
I'm sure it will be cold.
No, not just cold, Benny.
They got snow?
They're talking historic snow coming.
Historic?
Multiple feet.
Jeez.
Multiple feet of snow.
Okay.
Which may stop by game time, but the logistics from the days leading up to the game are going to be difficult. Because if you're talking 2 to 3 feet of snow, 36 inches or more, lake effect.
Overtime. That's overtime for the grounds crew.
Big time. Big time. Lake effect snow. So there was some mention that they, considered would they move the game, you know what I mean?
Really?
The fans in Buffalo probably, the fact that they've got 36 inches of snow is probably a badge of honor that they would want to get to a game and come out in their super big tire trucks.
Are you kidding me? Bills Mafia? Of course.
It's like, it's 36 inches of snow and it's a sellout.
Yeah.
They had to get the army to come in with tanks to get them in, but they got them in.
Yeah, that's the tough thing when you get snow like that. Not only do they have to try to clean the field, but they got to clean the stands too.
Got to clean the stand, yeah, all that stuff, man. So, that's going to be very interesting. And we know Josh Allen has shown in that game that he had against, who was it? The Patriots, that he could sling that ball in ice cold, windy weather. He's got that kind of arm, So that was the game where Patriots ran the ball. I think the Patriots won that game too. And what you call him had like some record 1 or 2 passes in the entire game or something like that. So
yeah, that was a terrible game.
Yeah. All right, going with the Bills. Going with the Bills. Ben's going with the Bills. All right, Benny. Lions at Giants coming into your stadium by a score of 9 favors the Giants.
A whole 9?
A whole 9.
Wow.
9.0.
My team's getting a lot of respect, man. Well, I mean, if the Bias Plus says they're favored by 9, that's facts. That's numbers. That's not necessarily respect. They earn that.
Well, the Lions are in last place.
Well, yeah, I get it.
Your Giants are not anywhere near those bottoms. So
right.
they definitely, like you said, earn the rankings where they are comparative to the Lions, who can't figure out what they want to do with defensively. And their poor offense is shrinking They've shrunk from first place down to somewhere in the middle there. It's hard to keep up with all of that losing, with all of those points that defense is giving up. It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah. I mean,
Avalanche.
they still found a way to find the end zone, though. So that makes them dangerous.
That's
But
what they do. That's the funny part about it. They score.
yeah, they score. They have talent. Goff is having a decent season. He doesn't stink. He really doesn't. Now, talent-wise, it's kind of crazy because Jamal Williams has pretty much taken over the running back position away from DeAndre Swift since he was hurt. Since he's been back, I don't know if they're trying to ease him back or if they really like Jamal better all of a sudden, but Swift isn't getting hardly that many carries. So it's kind of crazy. I'm on Ross St. Brown. Let me say his name correctly. Finished last season on fire. And I thought he kind of started off this season pretty well, but he's kind of fallen off. Hawkinson's filled in quite nicely, though. Him and Goff have a nice rapport. So that being said, basically after doing nothing special while watching Justin Fields light them on fire through the first 3 quarters of their game in Chicago last week, they fell behind 24-10. Then all of a sudden, they go on a tear. They scored 21 fourth quarter points, and they beat the Bears 31-30. Who would have thunk it? Now,
21 in the fourth quarter.
21 points in the fourth quarter. Yes, sir. Now, that's their second big division win in 2 weeks because they just beat Green Bay the week before. So the Lions actually are feeling pretty good about themselves. But they got to come into MetLife, man. Another victory for New York Football Giants. Another unspectacular but efficient game for Daniel Jones, who threw 2 touchdown passes with no turnovers, and another dominating performance for Saquon Barkley, who ran the rock 35 times. Let me repeat that. Ran the rock 35 times for 152 yards and another score. That's dominating, clock controlling, time of possession dominating football. That's how it's done. Lions are in trouble. Take the Giants.
Well, what did I say a little earlier? It's that time of year.
Yes, sir.
It's that time of year. You want to see run games? Man, you're going to see them across the league. Who got it? Who can stop it? Who can't stop it? Can the Lions stop the Giants? Saquon, the gift Barkley? I don't know, but can the Jets go into Patriot land in New England where the Patriots are 1.5, have a 1.5 bias plus score, favoring the Patriots over the Jets, 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 the only NFL team I have any family connection to.
Well, both teams are coming off the bye. Jets have to go to New England, but they got a lot of confidence coming in because they just beat the Bills in week 9. Big win for them, big division win. The Patriots also coming off the bye. What makes them dangerous is Bill Belichick off the bye has a pretty good track record. Extra week to prepare. That makes him very dangerous. Although the Patriots are not the team that they used to be, and Mac Jones hasn't seemed to really progress beyond where he was last year, where he simply showed promise, but nothing really great. Now, Zach Wilson, the Jets quarterback, he's not playing great either. But I think that the Jets, I want to say the Jets have the superior defense. And I'm going to go ahead and say it because they did pull out a win against the Bills. But the Patriots defense is not bad at all. In fact, I think fantasy-wise, they're ranked pretty close. So this is going to be an interesting game. This could be a very good, intriguing game candidate. But I'm going to take the Jets to win this one on the road.
Weird because it's in the division. There are always weird games, good games. Patriots don't have the boogeyman of Tom Brady and that whole dominating aura anymore. And the Jets, they just finished beating Aaron Rodgers. Who's to be scared of? My man Sal is doing a job there, man. It's nice to see things starting to come together for these guys. Okay. So you're going against the bias, going with the JETS, Jets. Now, see, this is what you call a big bias. And again, this looks like the biggest bias of the weekend, as it was last week with the Eagles. Now they're at the Colts. Bias plus score 22.6 favors the Eagles. Ah, man, drama on both sides. Benny, I'm going to step back and let you do your thing. These two stories, man, that's a lot of story stuff right there.
Yeah, I don't want to make it too long and drawn out, so I'm going to try to.
I'll make it long and drawn out. Don't worry about it.
Well, you believe me. I'll say my part, but you're always free to add in your tidbits, and that's not a problem. Now, so the Eagles are going to be on the road. We'll talk about them first. Not only are the Eagles no longer undefeated, but the top-rated team in turnover differential gave the ball away 4 times, and the defense has shown a real weakness against the run. So, Eagle fans, be wary of that, okay? Just be wary. When you can't stop the run, you're in danger of losing the ball control battle and time of possession, which is exactly what happened to them last week at home against the Washington Commanders. Not only did they lose the time of possession battle, but they actually got dominated. I think, if I remember correctly, the Commanders held the ball for like 40 minutes of the total 60. It was some crazy number like that. It was
At one point, I think they said something about the Commanders had the ball time of possession wise 4 times what the Eagles had.
Yeah, it was crazy. And not only that, but they're about to face some real good running backs in the very near future. So near, in fact, that they have to go to Indianapolis and play the Colts with Jonathan Taylor. They're coming off a win on the road versus the Raiders. Interim head coach Jeff Saturday, who promoted his assistant quarterback coach to OC, made a really smart move. Now, I'm sure the players like Jeff Saturday. I'm sure he's what you would consider a player coach, okay? He's a gregarious guy. He's not that long been retired, probably gets along with everybody in the locker room and all that stuff. But I would say his smartest move was bringing back Matt Ryan as the starting quarterback. That makes it easier on his play caller because he's got a veteran quarterback to work with. You know what I'm saying? That would have been tough with the rookie, I think. But bringing back Matt Ryan made it a little bit easier. So I'd say that was a pretty smart move. Now, I know the Raiders defense stinks, but the Colts offensive line looked inspired, and Jonathan Taylor looked healthy and had fresh legs. He rushed for 147 yards. Oh, yeah, 147 yards, which was actually the first time he went over 100 yards on the ground since week 1 of the season. So they've been having a tough time running the ball, but it looks like they kind of got things fixed. Might not be a good omen for the Eagles, but I believe they'll bounce back and beat the Colts. I'm going to take the Eagles.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
What was the movie where the guy was missing his mojo? It's one of those doctor, one of the, what was the guy from Saturday Night Live or whatever in the movie?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah, the mini me's, that
the
guy.
spy who shagged me.
Yeah.
One of those.
Or something. I think the spy lost his mojo.
He lost his mojo, right?
Jonathan Taylor. I might have found his mojo.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked like he's back.
If so, the Eagles are going to be in for another long day, like you said, when you see what works, and then what kind of league is this? Copycat league.
Right.
And that was just good football. You know what I
Right.
mean? That was just good football. You know he's a player's coach. He gave him the day off for winning. You know, when he went.
Oh, Victory Monday, baby.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
everybody waits to hear.
Oh yeah. So, you know, they was real happy with Victory Monday, man. So you know, my thing last week was I just thought what he was going to provide was a level of leadership, and that seems to be what he's done. So
Yeah.
very interesting. You're going with the Eagles again. It makes sense.
Yeah. Let me say one more thing about the Eagles, because I've been trying my best all season long not to come off like some kind of a hater. I've been very honest about the Eagles. I praised them when they played well. I gave credit to Jalen Hurts for having a really good season and all that other stuff. Okay. But just like any other fan, the Eagles fans are kind of trying to make excuses for the loss. Okay. And they always, I read a lot of stuff on Facebook, and the first thing they say is not to make excuses, but okay. They're talking about Jordan Davis, the rookie D tackle, who is humongous. Okay. This guy's gigantic. When he's in the lineup, they only give up like 3.8 yards per carry. Without him in the lineup, they've been giving up 5 point something yards per carry. Guess what? If you run the ball efficiently and you really pound the rock, you only need to run it 3.3 yards per carry per down. That's a first down. Okay. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Colts averaged about 3.5 yards per carry. Okay. But they ran the ball consistently. They never quit on it. They only threw the ball when they needed to, and they got the job done.
Man,
So,
did I see Ryan take off and run like
yes, yes, yes. He dropped back the pass.
like that?
They had like some combo routes on the left side of the field. The Eagles, I mean,
Raiders?
the
Raiders.
yeah, the Raiders. It looked like they had it clogged up. He looked to the right, and it was nothing but grass. And Matt Ryan ain't trying to run nowhere. He had to take that. That was a big, big play.
Like
That
I
was a big
said,
play.
that's when the opportunity presents itself,
Yeah,
that's one of my rules for running. Take it.
yeah. You got
If
to
it's
take
there
it.
for you, because if Matt Ryan can get that far, that's a big opportunity.
Absolutely.
Give me Christmas. I thought that was hilarious. Okay, you're going with the Eagles. You're no fun.
Yeah.
Now, I might actually do this as an intriguing game. Bias plus score 1.7 favors the Saints. This is a bottom feeder game.
Ugh.
How low can you go? That is
We can go lower. There's another game on the schedule that's lower, but I understand what you're saying. Rams at Saints, right? Wow.
1.7 bias plus score favors the Saints. They're home.
Saints are home.
That's
Wow.
not even the 3 points they give you for home field advantage. And again, let me remind everybody, the numbers in the bias plus report features the Pythagorean calculation. So all these numbers are the updated versions.
The Pythagorean calculation.
There you go.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
No.
Very good. So let's face it, the Super Bowl hangover is a real thing. The Rams are now even more severely compromised beyond the Super Bowl hangover that they've been going through the entire season. Matt Stafford's in concussion protocol. They're not even sure if he's going to be ready this week. Cooper Kupp is on IR. That's going to put him out for a minimum of 4 weeks. They haven't shown any semblance of a running game all season, and the defense has been gashed through the air and on the ground. On the Saints side, they might be rethinking their decision to hand the offense over to Andy Dalton. He got picked off twice. He failed to lead them to a scoring drive in the entire second half of the game against Pittsburgh. And we know Pittsburgh defense ain't nothing to write home about. He went a whole half, could not drive them down for a score, not even a field goal. Now, the Saints defense did have some success. They sacked Kenny Pickett 6 times, but he was back there looking like a sitting duck. Right. That's the only thing I can say good about the defense, because the Saints committed 10 penalties on the day, and 6 of them were by the defense. Can't win like that, bro. Can't win like that. I'm going to pick the Rams to win this one. I think Stafford will be back. Stafford will be back, and I'm going to give away a fantasy secret. Go to your waiver wire, see if you can find Van Jefferson. If you can find Van Jefferson, grab him, because with Cooper Kupp being on IR, Van Jefferson's targets just went up tremendously.
All right, with your fantasy alerts there. But Benny, this is the question. Are we going to see Jameis?
I don't know. Today's Wednesday. By Thursday or Friday, we'll probably hear if they're going to stick with Dalton or not. He was pretty bad, though. They got nothing to lose playing Jameis.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Jameis might give him a little bit of a spark.
He might give him a spark. I mean, let's face it. He was the starter coming in, to start the season. They had made up their mind they were going to give him the job. He did go out with an injury. He wasn't playing great, but he wasn't playing terrible either. I say give him another chance. Dalton, they're not getting nothing out of Dalton.
You pretty much know what Dalton's going to give you, and if it's nothing, it's nothing, but you kind of know that, So right. He's not exactly Matt Ryan.
No, he's not. That's sad to say. Sheesh.
All right, going with the Rams, going against the biased.
Yeah, Rams pull out a win.
Well, the victorious Commanders are going in to see the Texans. Bias plus score of 3.4 favors the Commanders. And again, this is one of those games where both teams are in the negative, but one's less negative than the other.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to think about them on the number line. So from minus this to minus that, it might just favor one team or the other. In this case, it favors the Commanders. Can the Texans stop the run?
Well, we're going to have to find out. Their run defense is pretty suspect, to tell you the truth. Just talked about the Eagles who played the Commanders, so you're going to hear me say some things similar. Taylor Heineke was not great in this game. He threw an interception, he lost a fumble, and he didn't throw any touchdown passes. But the Commanders dominated the time of possession because they stuck with the run game. They ran the ball, clock killing 49 times. 49 times they ran the ball. And their kicker, Joey Slye, connected on 4 field goals. And the defense forced 4 turnovers. Bam! They hand the Eagles their first loss of the season. No more undefeated teams. Just like that. Talk about ball control and tough defense. That's what the Commanders gave you last week. Now, I've been talking about suspect run defenses, and Houston is statistically the worst. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stink on Sunday coming up, but statistically, they are the worst run defense. So after the work that the Commanders put in last week, I would expect to see the same this week coming. Let me see. Texans gave up 191 total yards on the ground and turned the ball over twice in the red zone late in their game against the Giants. I don't think they have much chance of beating the Commanders. I really don't. I'm going to take the Commanders.
Scary Terry McLaurin.
Looking good.
Somebody said that the Eagles looked a little like their receivers, especially, look a little light in the butt. You know. Now, of
Well,
course, we're not talking about AJ.
you're talking about Devontae.
Devontae.
He is. He only
And
weighs like
who's the
170.
guy that caught the ball, rolled over, got running, and then got hit in the fumble?
Oh, Quez Watkins.
He also. I'm just telling you what somebody said. So
Yeah, you know what else somebody said? After he caught the ball and he went down, he should have just stayed down. Why would he get up and run? If he caught the ball and stayed down,
what loser
then
said that?
people would have said, why didn't he try to get up and run? Come on, man. Guy's trying to make a play. He knew he wasn't touched. He thought he could scramble to his feet, maybe break a tackle, and turn in a big play. Ball got punched out. What are you going to do? The only bad call in that game, I think, the only thing that really was bad was they got away with the face mask on Goddard. It was compounded by the fact that he fumbled the ball away and that he hurt his shoulder and he's now out. So that one play was huge for the Commanders and against the Eagles. And it may hurt them in the near future. I don't know how long Goddard's going to be out, but he's having a good season. He's definitely going to miss this week, I'm pretty sure. So that could be a big deal. But anyway, I like the way the Commanders are working. Nice celebration in the locker room after the game. Looks like they're really loving their coach right now. He was almost in tears because his mother had just passed away. And he looked like he was trying to give like a post-game speech, but he couldn't quite get it out. And all he was able to say was his mom would have been proud. And then he walked away. It was very emotional, very emotional. I tell you what, the NFC East is really getting interesting.
They're calling themselves the best division.
Well, who's saying that? Eagles fans?
Yeah,
because they're in first.
Yeah. Well, I think I said that I'm a big fan of Ron Rivera personally, but I wasn't a big fan of him, as a coach.
Right.
But in this particular case, he outcoached the Eagles.
Yes.
And what
with patience
and with all that domination, the sad part about the helmet or the face mask is that it's like an easy out for Eagle fans. It's like, face mask. It should never even got that close. They were supposed to go in there and dominate that game. That's what they were supposed to do. It wasn't even supposed to be about no face mask and nothing like that. And that, again, and I'm listening to people say, oh, they should have blitzed them more. And I'm like, if I'm running the ball and you got to bring somebody up to stop it, right behind that guy's where I'm going. You know what I mean? So I'm dictating what the defense does, and that's what you're going to do. If I can dictate what you do, and you're done. In any event, you're going with the Commanders. That makes sense. Next up. Okay, you're right. You're right. You could get lower. The question is not whether you can get down.
It's how low can you go?
How low can you go? Raiders at Broncos. Plus score of 1 favors the Broncos.
That is a really old one. It's not a matter of if you.
Let me say this real quick. We lost our friend Indy. And the thing about Indy that we had a running joke on was people who cry in sports.
Right.
She was tough on people who cry. And my man, the quarterback for the Raiders, I mean, he was having a hard time emotionally up on that stage, man, up in that podium, when he was doing his interview. I haven't seen any tears flowing, however, from Dangerous. even though his offense is like in last place.
Russ ain't gonna cry. Russ is a rich man with a beautiful wife and some great looking kids.
Yes.
Russ
Yes.
got nothing to cry about.
Got nothing to cry about. Okay. Well, what about the Broncos? They're favored by a bias plus score of 1.
That figures. Last week, I predicted that one of these head coaches would be fired, either McDaniels or what's his face, Hackett. If they lost, that was. Well, they both lost. And Josh McDaniels actually got a vote of confidence from Vegas owner Mark Davis. I can't, I don't understand this at all. The Raiders did compete hard against the Colts last week, but they just can't finish a game. They just can't finish. I think they had a lead in this game, coughed it up, and then couldn't come back. It's crazy. Now, Russell Wilson has taken a lot of heat this season for how poorly the Broncos offense has played. But he never stood a chance last week. The Titans sacked him 6 times. They hit him an astounding 18 times. It's a wonder he was able to finish the game. If you can't say nothing else about Russell Wilson, the dude is in shape. And you could tell he hit the weight room from the beginning of the season. He looked bigger, stockier. It's a good thing he did that because he's taking a lot of punishment, man. And he's not even running much. He's getting beat up in the pocket. I tell you what, somebody's got to win this game. Well, I mean, they do have ties.
Yes, right. But even in the net points, we've had ties.
Yeah, and the bias plus is only 1.
That's close to a tie.
That's real close to a tie. I tell you what. God. I got to go with the team that's home and has the better defense. I'm going with the Broncos.
Team at home with the better defense and used to that level of altitude. What can I tell you? All right. Broncos it is for Benny, going with the bias plus score of 1. Where do we stand here, Benny, with the schedule? I'm like, okay, we need to be getting somewhere near the Sunday night and the evening games and stuff.
Just about there.
Just about there. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. Vikings at Cowboys.
No, it's Cowboys at Vikings, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I'm dyslexic. Cowboys at Vikings. And I'm not dyslexic. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. That's backwards. But it's the Cowboys at the Vikings. Oh, wait a minute. Speaking of razor thin biases, we thought one was close. Holy mackerel. 0.5 favors the Cowboys over the Vikings. The Vikings come away with the game of the year, the win, the big win. Justin Jefferson looks like I don't even know who to compare him with, Benny. Who can you compare that guy with?
I don't know. He looks unguardable. I tell you, I wrote that down. I wrote that word down.
Unguardable.
Unguardable.
Would you say he's the best receiver in the NFL right now?
Yeah, the conversation I'm hearing is between him and Jamar Chase, who's actually injured at the moment.
Interesting.
But it's funny, I haven't heard a whole lot about the Cheetah, who happens to be leading the league in yardage, right?
Very quietly leading the league in yardage, maybe not in touchdowns, but they're winning, and he's opening up the field, and then you got Waddle on the other side. But yeah,
he's pushing up on
receiving core is absolutely productive.
If I'm not mistaken, he's on course or on pace to go over 2,000 yards this season.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
But Cowboys got to go up to Minnesota. Now, here's what I've been hearing up until this past weekend. The Cowboys Super Bowl caliber defense. Have you heard that statement?
No, but go ahead.
Super Bowl caliber defense of the Cowboys. Now, they recovered 2 Packers fumbles last week, but they only recorded 2 quarterback hits and 2 sacks on Aaron Rodgers, and a rookie wide receiver torched them for 3 touchdowns. Something went wrong. Something went wrong. I know they were up in Lambeau. I think, didn't Chris go up there? Chris and Wyatt went up to the game.
Yes.
He must have brought them some luck. The Cowboys didn't seem to have a clue. And Aaron was on. Crazy. Cowboys did not.
I mean, that was one of his, I don't know, bucket list things. I don't know why
to get to a game at Green Bay. Well, that was great. He took some good pictures too. He had cheese.
No, the whole bit there.
That's cool. It's cool. Nothing wrong with that. And what was probably the most exciting game of the weekend, the Vikings went to Buffalo, went blow for blow with the Bills. And even though Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions, the Vikings defense recorded 4 takeaways. 2 of them were big-time red zone interceptions by veteran cornerback Patrick Peterson. Justin Jefferson put on a show, seemed unguardable, caught 10 passes for a huge 193 yards and a touchdown. So 193 yards in one game, that's super big, okay? And he scored a touchdown and made probably the catch of the year. Some people are saying it's the greatest. It seems like every week we hear somebody say, that's the greatest catch I've ever seen. But that one, if you really look at it and break it down, he caught the ball with one hand when the D-back had 2 hands on it, pulled it away from him while going to the ground, survived the ground, and I don't think got any movement from the ball, secured it for the catch. Tremendous catch.
2 things about that real quick. One, the down, and this was 4th down.
Yes.
So this was big time, do or die type down. And he did it, no doubt about it. 2, somebody said that had the defender not been there, that ball would have been overthrown. Kirk Cousins would have overthrown that thing. But the defender went up and with both hands, I thought it was an interception.
Yeah.
That stopped the trajectory of the ball right there. Everybody's hands was in the same place. And again, Justin Jefferson came down with that. It was just absolutely amazing, blew everybody's mind. But that was the kind of game that was, Benny. So It was kind of one of those games. All right, so
Cowboys take another L. Vikings at home.
Cowboys take another L. Vikings at home, going against the bias. All right, that's fine. Chiefs at Chargers. Bias plus score 7.8 favors the Chiefs. That's right. Andy said, I don't need no steak and Tyreek Hill.
Not when you have Patrick Mahomes. And as you can see, if you're really watching what's going on. So they went out, got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They got Juju. They got Kadarius Toney away from the Giants, who he wasn't happy in New York anyway. They still have Kelsey. So they're making up for Tyreek with volume, okay? Mecole Hardman's probably having one of his better seasons. They just have given Patrick so many weapons that he doesn't have to worry about having to depend on that one big play guy. He can just beat you over the head with a bunch of really good guys. So that's working well for them. You got to give Andy Reid credit. He knows how to build an offense. He's got the ultimate weapon in Patrick Mahomes, and he's making the best of it. The Chiefs hosted Jacksonville last week, and they did what they do best. They let Mahomes carve them up for 331 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. Pretty much enough said. They are kind of playing musical chairs with their running backs, though. They let the rookie, what's his name, Pacheco, he started the game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, had an injury, but I believe he's healthy now. But they decided to start Pacheco anyway. And Jerick McKinnon, ex-49er, he's the passing down back, it looks like. And he's having himself a really nice season, too, catching the ball out of the backfield. So Chiefs remain looking very, very serious and very, very dangerous. The Chargers had to go to San Francisco last week. They were missing 2 of their starting wide receivers and both of their starting offensive tackles. That's not good. They scored a TD early, but then with their running game pretty much shut down, they had to settle for field goals the rest of the way. Niners defense was dominant. Chargers couldn't get anything done. One of the most disappointing teams this season, along with the Browns and some other teams that were expected to be playing better. I'm really disappointed in the Chargers. They're not playing well. They have had a lot of injuries. I got to give them that, but I'm very disappointed in them. Good job by the Niners, though. I'll talk about them when we get to them. But yeah, Chargers, I don't think are going to stand much of a chance even at home against the Chiefs. Too much offense, way too much offense, and not enough offense for the Chargers, even with Herbert.
That being said, going with the Chiefs, eh?
Right.
I wrote down in my notes a while back, and I never got a chance to mention it. I just wrote his name, Pacheco. I like the way that guy runs the ball.
Yes. Yes.
Reckless, violent.
He showed potential early on. And now they're kind of liking him. Yeah, they're giving him a shot.
Look, let me tell you, man, you put him in, you got to keep your eyes open more because he's going for it, no doubt about it. All right, I like Pacheco.
He's pretty good.
7.8 favors the Chiefs. Let's see. And again, Eric Bieniemy, I didn't hear you even mention his name in this Chiefs successful offense, which I always think is just part of his problem. He's got Andy Reid above him. He's got in the brain trust, he's got Mahomes below him. And he's, I don't think that the other owners can look at him and say, you know, he's great. You know, it's his own.
But you know what? We're still looking at biases here, man, because guess what? Doug Peterson came up under Andy Reid. He got a shot and he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, you know, that was early on, and he didn't have Mahomes at quarterback. That's what I'm saying. He's the enemy sandwich between this great quarterback and this now legendary coach. And I think it just
there's something else going on with
credit with him, but it could be something else. All right, let's move on. Benny, Bengals and Pittsburgh is the last of the 4:00 games. Bias plus 14.2 favors the Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals are coming off the bye. They're coming off the bye. They're also coming off a Week 9 win over the Panthers. They ripped them for 42 points. Looks like they fixed their offensive line problems. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. The Steelers did look a little bit better with TJ Watt back from injury. At least the defense looked better. He kind of gave them a spark, but it was against the Saints and Andy Dalton. They're not looking really great, but the offense wasn't anything special. Kenny Pickett took a beat and got sacked 6 times. I don't think the Steelers are going to stand much of a chance even at home against the Bengals. I'll take the Bengals on this one.
Taking the Bengals, going with the bias. That wraps up the 4:00 slate of games. And now, Benny, we move to Sunday night football. Can't you just hear the music? Waiting all day for Sunday night.
Yeah.
Why am I looking at the Monday night game? The heck?
Because we already did the Sunday night game.
Oh, that was the Sunday night game.
Chiefs Chargers.
Chiefs Chargers. All right. Well, we were waiting all day for Sunday night, and it went right by us. Didn't even realize it was it was happening. Waiting all day. It's Monday.
I've been waiting all day.
It's waiting all day. Monday went right by me. I went to sleep on the game. That's probably what happened. Kansas City at LA. You're going with Kansas City. The Monday night matchup. Ben, let me say it like this. El matchup. What's that mean?
Huh?
El matchup.
El matchup.
Yes.
I don't know. You lost me.
La matchup.
La. What?
My Spanish is absolutely non-existent.
Oh, are you trying to say the matchup in Spanish?
To some degree. Because the game is going to be played in Mexico.
Oh, okay. This is the Mexico game.
This is
I got
Mexico
you.
game. At Cardinals, it'll be in Mexico. Cardinals will be home in Mexico. Bias plus score 3.7, however, favors the 49ers. And the whisper is Mexico's big 49er country.
Yeah, it is.
It
is. It's big 49er. It's big Raider country too.
Okay.
It's very big 49er country. Yes.
All right. See, I'm just hearing this stuff.
Yeah. So when we talked about the Chargers, we talked about how good the San Francisco 49ers defense was. They only sacked Justin Herbert twice last week, but they hit him 9 times, and they held the Chargers' rushing attack to 51 total yards, held Herbert to 196 yards through the air. So that's an excellent job by the Niners defense. They're getting people back, and they're looking real healthy and looking real strong. Now, as far as the Cardinals are concerned, Kyler Murray was injured last week. Colt McCoy had to start in his place. He actually played pretty well. He led a pretty disciplined attack. He completed 26 of 37 passes, which was pretty nice, 238 yards, and he did throw 1 touchdown. The defense played well too. They recorded 3 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, and 2 takeaways. However, I don't know if Colt McCoy is going to play against the Niners or if Kyler Murray will be back, but it doesn't really matter. The Niners are the superior team. They will win that game. Take the Niners.
Going with the Niners on Monday Night Football.
Absolutely.
49ers. I tell you. Kelly Rowland was on Good Morning Football. Did you see my post?
No.
She's a Niner fan.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, why are you a Niner fan? She's like, my husband's a Niner fan. So she didn't want to have a house divided.
I'm surprised because I think she's from Texas.
They asked her some football question. You gotta love her. She looked at me. She said, I don't know the answer to.
At least she was honest.
She's like, she got the nails and she's the fingertips. She's done up. She's like, don't even try it.
Come on.
All these football questions.
I'm the pretty face.
Sitting at the table.
You asking me questions?
Good Morning Football. That's right. Just don't answer no football questions. He's a Niner fan. That's all we needed to know.
Right.
That's it right there. All right. Niners at Cardinals. Going into Arizona. 3.7 favors the 49ers. And then rolling with the bias. All right, Benny. That wraps up this portion of the show. Benny, do we have anybody on the bye this week? I do believe we do.
Oh, yeah, bye teams. I got you. Dolphins, Seahawks, Buccaneers, and Jaguars.
Dolphins, Seahawks, Bucks, and Jags. Okay,
Yes,
so
they
that's
are on the bye.
4 teams, 2 games, 14 games on the slate this week. However, Benny, once we finish the Bias Plus reports, what's next? It's the Bias Plus Buster of the Week.
I kind of knew this one.
Congratulations to the Washington. Say it with me now, Benny.
No,
Commanders.
no,
Say it just like that with your chest
no.
out. Commanders.
I refuse.
With an unfavorable bias plus score of 24.2. 20 plus 3 plus has 3 touchdowns and a field goal.
Wow.
And they won by 6, giving them a bias plus buster score of 30.2. Can I get a round of applause
That's
for the
big.
Washington
That's
Commanders?
big. That's big.
I can't believe I even brought the Bias Plus Buster up in my blog on this show. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I can't believe I even brought it up, and then they wind up getting it. That is absolutely
That's good, man. And I think they carry that down to Houston and beat the Texans and make this NFC East fight a real fight.
Hey, man, Giants, Eagles, Dallas, and Washington. Any team matched up between those 4 is just a matter of who has a good day.
Right.
It could be just that,
It's crazy. The Commanders, if they win this week, I don't have the standings right in front of me. If they win this week, then they put themselves in a nice position as far as wins and losses are concerned, I believe. They have
Well, let's see.
They still have to play the Eagles again,
Quick
right?
look, NFC
Is that
East.
their first time?
They're 5-5. They're in 4th place right now.
At 5-5.
At 5-5. Dallas is 6-3. Giants are 7-2, and the Eagles are 8-1.
Right, but the Eagles have to play the Giants twice. They have to play the Cowboys again, and I believe they have to play Washington again. So nothing is set in stone yet. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And this supposed easy schedule that everybody was talking about. Oh, I look at the Eagles schedule. I don't see any losses. I don't see any losses. They could go undefeated. Now you're starting to see losses now when you look at that run defense and some of the running backs that are coming up.
That strength of schedule thing, Benny, I mean, it's almost not a good thing, because it's almost like if you're kind of light heavyweight and you're practicing against middleweights and the punches aren't really hurting as much,
right?
And all of a sudden you get in there with a real middleweight and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Something's going on here. These punches hurt, so I don't know. I think the strength of schedule is going to show as they continue to play better teams, and that's sad to say, but the challenge with that is that happens usually in the playoffs. You get there and it's like, uh-oh.
And
All
on
right.
paper, it may not look like they're playing better teams, but they're playing good running teams, which has been shown to be one of their weaknesses, if they have a weakness. I heard that too. Oh, the Eagles don't have any weaknesses. Okay, we'll see.
I'll be quite honest with you. I did not think that their defense, I thought their defensive line was kind of like on par with their offensive line. And everybody's talking about how good their offensive line is. I kind of looked at both sides of the ball and thought, okay, good offensive line, good defensive line. We got, you talked about their rookie that's in there and how much of an impact he's had, you know. So, you know, I kind of thought about it like that. So to see that as a weakness is very interesting. Very interesting, you know.
Well, I tell you what, to be kind, I won't call it a weakness. I call it a vulnerability.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I can see that. I can see that, you know. All right. Well, that wraps up the Bias Plus reports for the weekend. Benny, we're going to go to our Facebook page and talk about a few current events. It's been an eventful, a very eventful week across the board. There's been a number of things that happened in and out of the field, on and off the field. So I want to just hit on a few things as we go through our Facebook page. First and foremost, we did have that historic game in Germany. Tom Brady says here he's heard that there were 3 million requests for 67,000 seats. Man, that's what you call demand there, you know. And it's amazing because, you know, they keep talking about an upcoming recession here in the United States that's supposedly so much going to be worse in Europe.
Right.
But didn't stop the demand for those seats there, man. So it was a good game, no tragedies, no none of that kind of stuff, man. And so I understand that they're already talking about another 3 or 4 games on the next few years. So expect to see us back in Germany again. So next up, Broncos player sues the Chargers, NFL, ESPN, and others after the ACL tear.
Wait, he sued ESPN?
He's suing them all.
What the heck?
Now, excuse me, we talked about the turf, but this wasn't the turf. He was running out of bounds. And apparently they have these mats over top of all the wires and stuff that's going out to all the electronics along the sideline.
Yeah.
So that's where you get ESPN and all of these media companies who are running all these lines close to the field of play.
Right.
I remember pointing out, for some reason, they had like plastic tarp on the sidelines in some of the stadiums. And I would see the players run out of bounds and be sliding like, you know, like they're on the ice skates. And I'm like, what the heck? Why are they doing that? What, you know? So it's going to be interesting out of this lawsuit. I can see a new day of wireless electronics on the sidelines of the NFL if he gets paid the way he wants to get paid, you know. But they do, there's a lot of cables and all of that stuff, you know, right near where the guys are playing, right near the playing field, you know. So that's what that's all about there. So that made it a little bit different. And then finally, I just want to, you know, mention the University of Virginia campus shooting. 3 football players killed.
In Virginia.
In Virginia, yeah. Apparently this guy had been on the team and there was a trip to see a play. And they were all on the bus to see this play. And when they got back, he took the gun out and started shooting. And one of the players was asleep when he shot him.
It's messed up.
So, you know, I don't know what could engender somebody's mind to do something like that, but we see too much of this stuff as it is. But I did want to take a moment to, you know, remember these students, these guys who, had bright futures, college students, football players, bright futures, no matter which way they wanted to go. So sad to say. All right. Thanks for following. Please leave comments and suggestions. Hashtag is football is life. This is Ben and Barry on Football. Ben, do you have any last or final comments? I want to say last words.
Well,
any last words,
I just
buddy,
wanted to say,
drawing you?
I wanted to say one thing. I thought you were going with when you talked about the like little carpet or whatever they got over top of the wires and all. The other controversy is the artificial turf. It seems that there are 3 different types of turf that's being used by various teams. One is called, and there's even in the articles, it uses 2 different names: slit film turf and slit firm turf. That's one. The other one is called dual fiber, and one is called monofilament. Now, evidently, the slit firm turf is the one that has the most recorded injuries on it. That's the one that's being complained about the most. And according to some players and or the player association, changing from one to the other, they don't seem to think is that big a deal. I don't know exactly what the exact difference is. I would have to do more research, what the exact difference is between the 3. But this slit firm or slit field turf evidently has caused the most non-contact injuries as opposed to the other 2 types, and over and above grass fields. So I'm sure somebody's going to be suing over that too, and there's going to be a lot of talk about it. The Players Association is going to have to take it up with the owners, and they're going to have to come up with something in the CBA, because this is a major problem. Nobody likes to see a player just running down the field and all of a sudden their knees blow up. You know what I'm saying? I remember people complaining about Veterans Stadium, but that was a whole nother thing. That was like some indoor-outdoor carpet on top of cement. That was crazy. This other stuff here, I don't know. They all seem to look the same when you're watching the game. It looks like artificial grass with the pellets, yeah, the little rubber pellets inside. I know when we go to flag tournaments, sometimes we play on artificial turf, and that's basically what it is. And it's cushiony and it's springy. It's kind of good to run on, makes you feel really fast. So what the difference is between the 3 different ones, I'm not exactly sure, but the players are sure. They know which one causes the most injuries, and they're calling out the teams that have that particular type and asking them to make a change. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that.
Follow these stories on Ben and Barry on Football, as well as major media elsewhere.
Right.
Like we're major media. Okay. Thank you for that. That's true. I didn't go there because that wasn't what the article was about. But yeah, you're saying much more being said in the media from different sources.
So. And it's all about player safety. The NFL makes a big deal about caring about player safety. So the players are like, okay, if it's a big deal to you, then you need to do something about this.
Part of the challenge, I do believe, is, from what I've heard, is I think the NFL actually statistically kind of refutes what's being said.
Yeah, somehow.
It's like, because it's difficult sometimes. You have one guy who it happens to, and it makes the big news. But then if you've had, I don't know, if you've been tracking it for the last 3 years and it's, statistically no big difference between the grass and the this particular turf, then that's what's going to happen in court. One person is going to bring their complaint, and then they're going to bring their statistics, and we'll see,
Right.
which one goes out. But okay, that's how it works in big business. Got anything else for us, Benny?
That's all I got, man. Go Knowles.